Hi, so now we come across something called as return on investment. Now, how do you calculate return on investment? Because this is one more critical component which an investor would like to know at what is the kind of returns that I can get in. Because it's quite obvious for an investor to understand what is the kind of returns your business is going to give him. How do you calculate this? Let us come back to the amount which we had calculated as today's valuation. Let's say it is around 20 million and you are raising 4 million. So for which you are spending around 20% of the equity. Now post valuation of third year, if it is coming in around to 80 million, so you will see that 20% that what you had diluted for raising 10 million, and when it comes to 80 million, the difference of jump that happens between the same 20% of 80 million would be around 8 million, whereas he had invested around 2 million in the start. So the difference between this and this will give you what is the return on investment. To make it much more easier, I'll be explaining it to you on an Excel sheet that will give you clarity as how do you go about. To make it much more easier, when putting it across in a layman term, it would be, let us assume that your today's valuation is 10 million, you are raising 4 million, that is 40% of equity being diluted, and post third year valuation is coming to around 80 million. So there has been a jump from 40 million to 80 million. So the same way the investors equity will also have some 20% of 40 million to 20% of 8 million. So when you do this calculation is where you come around what is the return on investment. It would be a simple formula wherein you need to have clarity of what is today's valuation and at what equity, and what is post third year valuation, and the same equity money would have got increased. The difference between that 10 million and the 4 million, that is 6 million, when you converted it into a percentage basis, it will give you clarity that investor investing today of 4 million to what he is going to earn at 8 million, the difference will be 100%. So that is how the return on investment is calculated. Now remember, return on an investment is linked only to your valuation and post third year valuation. The same way valuation gets linked to a lot of other sheets. Now the difference between today's valuation and post third year valuation and the equity that you have diluted in the first round to the equity value after the post third year valuation is what will give you clarity of what is the percentage of return on investment the investor is going to get by investing today when your company is just getting started. So usually in the first rounds or in the seed funding, you might have to give a much more amount of it. So that is where an investor also looks in for getting more benefits. Because what happens is when the post third year valuation comes in, which is on actual numbers that have been performed, his shares value increases. So that is where he gets the benefit. You may not get involved too many into keeping in thoughts, okay, why should I give him so much of X amount of returns? Remember, he is investing his hard-earned money on your idea which has not seen the daylight in terms of implementation and growth. When it comes to an existing companies, it's an entirely different ball game altogether. So that is how startups, when they pitch in for today's valuation and the equity being diluted today minus the post third year valuation is what the difference that is going to give in terms of percentages with regard to the returns on investment. This will be furthermore clarified to you with an Excel file which will give you clarity as how to calculate and what all the basic formula that needs to be done in. For a financial background entrepreneur, it might be easier comparing to a non-finance background entrepreneur. But nothing to be worried in. It's being explained in a very layman term with a basic knowledge. It will be good enough for you to calculate what is the returns that you can put across to investor. Because these kind of summaries is what you will be highlighting in your pitch deck presentation. Today's investment will lead you X amount of return on investments. So that is how it's going to work in. Hope it's clear. Thank you.